Hello and welcome to another video for Mosaic Art for Expressions Cafe in Warsaw. This week I'm going to be doing a very small mosaic. It's the same size as the coasters that I did last time, one of the other weeks. So it's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and I'm just using a piece of wood, piece of MDF wood that you can buy ready. They're very cheap and nice to work on. They have a nice smooth surface, so you can do your drawing on there very easily with some pencil. So I've done a drawing of this mountain landscape with the moon. And I'm using the tiles that I have used before in some of my other mosaics. Like I said before, I really like these tiles. They cut very easily with the wheeled nippers. They come in lots of different colors, and they're just very pleasant looking. The ones that I'm using here have this pearly effect, like an iridescent pearlescent effect, but you can also get them in a matte effect or just glossy. They just come in lots of different textures and colors, and they're a very good price as well. They're frost proof, so they can be used outdoors, and generally I highly recommend them. They're about 4 millimeters thick, and they are 12 millimeters by 12 millimeters square. Like I've said in my previous videos, to start doing mosaics you don't need a lot. You can buy yourself a good pair of tile nippers, like the ones you see here. Wheeled nippers are the best ones for glass. A good pair of tweezers, some tiles or pebbles, flat pebbles, glass pebbles or buttons or something like that. And then you just need a base. Wood is the easiest thing to begin with. So to achieve the kind of shape that you want, you just need to practice a little bit. Look at the width of your the line that you want to do in mosaic. So estimate the width of your line, and then usually you have to cut your tiles at an angle to get the right shape. I said before, this all just comes with practice. The more you practice, the faster and the better you will become at it. You can use a little pot to cut your tiles in so you don't get any sharp shards everywhere. And try to cut your tiles in such a way so that if there's any other pieces falling off, they fall on the table or inside your pot or your tray or something like that. So for this little mosaic I have a really nice selection of colors. It's a very basic drawing, so it's all about the color. And I'm just going to try and create a kind of a texture on the mountain. So you see I've drawn these curved lines. So what I tried to do was I tried to do each row at a different with a different color or a slightly different shade, just to give a little bit more depth to the scene. It was something very enjoyable. It took me roughly about maybe 3 hours to complete, plus grouting and cleaning. So it's something that you can do in a day, and it's a nice idea to, if you want to make something for a friend as a gift. It's not very heavy, so it's easy to, post to somebody, or to just carry wherever you want to take it. So it's just a pleasant little project for you. The very, very small pieces that you need to cut, again, that just comes with practice. It can be a little bit tricky, but you just have to make sure that you're holding the piece very firmly with your fingers, and be careful that you don't cut your fingers. But it's not rocket science, you know, it's just something that you learn how to do. These these cutters are also very, very good if you have a problem with your hands, if you're finding it difficult, you know, to use your wrists or your fingers, if it's painful, you could try these. There is also another type of cutters like these ones, but much more advanced, but they cost around about 60 or 70 pounds, so that would only be worth it if you really want to do mosaics all the time. But those cutters are, I don't know what they're called now, they're like the wheeled cutters, but they have a sort of a spring where basically you're hardly putting any force when you're cutting the tiles. So those are ideal if you have a serious problem with your joints or your wrists and you can't cut tiles. The other option is to use things that don't need cutting, like very small tiles or small buttons, small glass nuggets, millefiori, found objects, things like that. Or you can simply have a go at doing a paper or a card mosaic, and then you just cut your pieces with a pair of scissors. Another thing that's quite popular as well online that I've seen is eggshell mosaics, and again, that's really great for people who can't cope with cutting, you know, very hard materials. So you can literally just boil a few eggs and use the eggshells to make something. And don't do it on paper, use card at least. So you want a surface that's quite firm as a base, and then you can color your eggshell after with watercolor or any other type of paint that you like, or nail varnish or glitter or whatever you like. So there's lots of things you can do, and these videos are just to give you ideas and inspiration. The adhesive that I'm using for this mosaic is just ordinary PVA glue. I'm using PVA glue because it's just an indoor project and it works just fine with glass tiles on an MDF or a wooden board. But if you are doing something for outdoors, then please make sure that you are using appropriate materials and appropriate base. These tiles are very smooth on the one side, obviously the side that is facing up, and the other side you can see a couple of them in the on your screen right now. They have these indentations, and that's because they've tried to make them so that they have a little bit of grip when they are stuck down with tile adhesive. Of course, you can also use tile adhesive or grab adhesive or another good glue like Gorilla Glue, but for a small project like this, that's definitely just going to stay indoors. Ordinary PVA glue is fine. So just make sure that you're using the right kind of adhesive for the right project. There's lots of different ones, and each one has different applications. The way that I did the circle for this mosaic, again, was very simple. Basically, I used another coaster that I had, which was round, and I traced that circle on top of my square coaster. So if you don't have a compass, you can use a glass or a base from a vase or something like that, a round vase, or a round lid from a jar to draw a circle. So it's just a very easy way to make a square mosaic look a little bit more interesting. So instead of creating a frame, with wood or something like that, I just did my picture in a circle, and then that circle has been framed by the square itself. So I thought that that's quite effective. What I'm trying to do as well is, you can see that I did the moon and then the trees first. So the objects that are in front, when you look at them, those are the ones that I do first, and then you do your background, whatever that is. So in this case, the background of the trees mostly is this the mountain, and the mountain has a texture. So I'm following the lines that I drew before. So I want to make sure that I keep that flow even when I have to put tiles very close to where the trees are. That's very important, I think, when you are doing a mosaic, no matter how small it is, that you need to be a little bit disciplined when you're doing your background. So if you decide on a certain direction that the tiles are gonna go in, then you need to stick to that direction, no matter what's in its way, if that makes sense. And that's what will make all the difference for, in the final result of what you're doing. So the background is just as important as your main theme, and it's worth spending a little bit of energy to get it right, because then you will be much more pleased with the results in the end. An easy way to do the background if you're just starting out is just do straight lines. So do your main theme, example, a cat or an animal or whatever it is you're doing as your main theme, which is in the front. So in perspective, it's the first object closest to you, and then the background, just do straight lines starting from the top, like a brick wall, and just keep going with that brick wall even when you are close to the main theme. So you can do that by drawing the lines in your background and use them as a guide. Another thing to consider is the contrast between your colors. So whatever colors you're using, you need to think about the contrast between your main theme and your background. And of course you can use anything you like and any color you please, but it will be more effective if you have enough contrast. So I was a bit worried about this one. I wasn't sure if there was going to be enough contrast between especially the dark green against the purpley greyish background of the mountain. But in the end, when I grouted it, because the grout was white, it came out really, really well. The PVA glue gives you plenty of time as well to move your pieces around any way you like. I would say, I don't know, about an hour or something before it starts to set. So you have plenty of time to move the pieces around and make any changes before the glue goes solid. If you do want to remove any tiles, you can just use some hot water or warm water. Use a brush to moisten the area, leave it for a bit, and then you should be able to peel the tile off. When you're cleaning your area, please make sure that you don't use your bare hands. Try to use a brush or something else. So for the background, because I didn't have enough of what I wanted, I also used some stained glass, which I had. This one is a very, very dark blue, but obviously when you're putting it against, when you're gluing it down against the wooden base, it looks like it's almost black. So I was just having a look to see, what kind of shapes I'm going to use, if I'm going to use squares again. And I decided to go with triangles, which is something that I've done before. I thought it would be interesting to use a different shape for the background. So I started off cutting these, the ones that I had, the black ones. I cut them, as you can see, carefully, so that I get the same shape, or almost the same shape, triangular shapes. And then to fill in the gaps, I did use some other odd shapes, but that's a nice idea. I think that you can do is you can use triangles, for example, to do a frame to go around a certain area, and then just you can fill the inside with crazy paving or odd shapes. So it's just another way to use these tiles, and it's fun. Obviously, I'm trying to be careful when going around the circle. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I want it to look neat if possible. So I'm just trying to go round the circle faithfully. And of course, I used too much glue, but it doesn't matter. The glue dries clear, and to be honest, it's better to put more glue than not enough glue, because you don't want your tiles to start falling off, especially if you're going to give your mosaic to somebody else as a gift. And if the triangles don't fit exactly in the surface that you want to cover, you can kind of trick the eye and cut a couple of them a bit smaller. So what I did there, if you noticed, was they were all exactly the same size, but then I realized that there wasn't enough room to put the last one. So what I did was I removed one or two and cut them slightly smaller, and it's not noticeable. Obviously, when you're going round shapes, then it becomes a bit more complicated using only triangles. It is possible to do it, but I just found it easier to use some more triangles wherever it was possible to do that. And then I filled the gaps with two different types of stained glass. One was a very, very dark blue, and the other one was slightly lighter. So in the finished mosaic, you can see the sky, because obviously I wanted it to be a very dark sky. And when you use triangles, you will inevitably be left with some odd shapes in the end. So it will always take time to fill some leftover areas, but that's just part of making a mosaic.
Don't know what's wrong, something isn't right. Don't feel I belong in the light. Passion has gone and love's taken flight. Things just feel heavy tonight. I'm tasting no tears, I'm fighting no fears, but still there's a hole in my heart. Not on my own, but I feel it sometimes. Wondering what should I do? For reasons unknown, I don't need to decide. It's true that I don't have a clue. I'm tasting no tears, I'm fighting no fears, but still there's a hole in my heart. I'm wasting no time, I'm losing my mind, here till the day I depart. Don't know what's wrong, something isn't right. Don't feel I belong in the light. Passion has gone and love's taken flight. Things just feel heavy tonight. Things just feel heavy tonight.
Also, I wanted to mention that the stained glass that I used for the background was actually thinner than the rest of the tiles, but that didn't bother me. It didn't subtract from the effect of the mosaic, and I was getting a little bit tired as well towards the end. So the stained glass was a little bit thinner, but it actually gave a nice texture. And you just have to make sure that you clean it properly. So if you're going to grout your mosaic in the end, you just have to make sure that you clean it properly to get the full effect of, you know, all the hard work that you've put in. Again here, when you get all these odd shapes, you just have to estimate a little bit how you're going to cut it, at what angle, and it helps to put the piece on top of the area where you want to put it. So then that can give you an idea of how big your shape is and what angle you need to cut it at. But that just comes with experience. There is no recipe for that, really. Some people use a Sharpie or another permanent pen, so they put the piece on top of the area they want to cut, and then they mark it with Sharpie. And if you want a very, very specific shape, like a leaf or something like that, you can do that as well. So you can use a marker on top of your tile, and then follow that line to cut the right shape. Also, stained glass is quite sharp, so be careful when you're cutting it. And again, make sure that you cut it in such a way so that you're always holding as much of the piece as possible. So you want to hold the piece that's going to be the piece you want to glue down, as well as the piece that's going to be left over. You want to hold it with 3 fingers in such a way that, if possible, you don't have any shards or any pieces of glass flying around, or cut it in such an angle so that the piece will fall onto your work surface and not, fly in another direction. A lot of people wear safety goggles. I don't think it's 100% necessary, as long as you are careful. And obviously, when you do your cutting, you keep your distance from your cutters. So you cut with your arms kind of stretched out or away from your face. Make sure that you do that. I notice now that on the lower left side of the mosaic, as you see it on the video, I didn't follow the circle very well, so I noticed that after, when I did my background, but it doesn't matter. I am pleased with the overall result. Expressions Cafe is now open, so you can pop in for a hot drink and a slice of cake for £4. And we are doing meet the tutor sessions. I'm hoping to book mine for next week or maybe the week after, so we can meet in person if you would like to come and see what we do. And we will sit in the garden. The cafe has a new garden area at the back. It's at 73 Bridge Street in Walsall. And it's in the town centre. So obviously, when you finish your mosaic, you need to leave it to dry at least for 1 day if you want to do any grouting. So the PVA glue needs probably a full day to set properly, and then the next day you can put your grout on there. If there's any glue left on top of the tiles, don't worry, you can just clean it up with a little bit of warm water and use a small spatula or your tweezers or an old knife just to scrape it off. PVA glue is very child friendly as well. You can get non-toxic PVA glue if you want to do a mosaic with your children, and like I said before, you can use any found objects really, but obviously objects that have a flat surface work the best. So for the background, I chose a nice yellow, which is very similar to the yellow I used for the moon. I was going through all the different colors, trying to find the right color for the background, and then in the end I decided on the yellow. I think that looked really good. And in this video I also just wanted to show you the finishing touches that you can do to your mosaic to make it look more professional and nicer if you want to display it or give it to somebody as a gift. So like I said before, I picked a nice bright color to frame my mosaic basically, and then I grouted it, which you're going to see in a minute. And then when the grout was, you don't have to wait for it to go completely dry. As long as it's dried a little bit, you can still do the painting. I chose to leave the grout just white, and then I painted all around my plaque. So you can pick any color you like, of course, but I like to pick the same color as the background when I do that. So when I paint all around the edges of the board, I like to use the same color as my background. You can use acrylic colors, you could use watercolors, but I think acrylic colors are better. They cover the area better, and you might need to do more than one layers. Also for the back of the mosaic, you will see that I used felt. You can find felt in local craft shops or bargain craft shops. I believe I found mine in Home Bargains or Pound World. You can get a pack of a collection of felt sheets very, very cheaply. And here you can see I'm using the circle that I mentioned before. The other coaster I had, I used it as a guide to check my circle, but I just missed one area that could have been done a little bit better. But overall I'm really, really pleased. So you can use the PVA glue again to glue your felt at the back of your mosaic. And also I used a D-ring so that you can hang it on the wall. Make sure you mark it in the middle when you do that. And that's it really, very basic, and just a lovely little item to display in your space. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will be able to come and see me at the Expressions Cafe, and there's lots of other activities going on. You can go online, obviously on the website, One Love Community Music and Arts and Music. And I hope you enjoy the lovely weather this week, and I hope to see you soon.